Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back on the back of Spurs, absolutely thrashing, absolutely thumping bottom of the table Southampton by 5-0 at St Mary's. If you're with us for the first time, my God, where have you really been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky too. I'm conscious I said back about 3 or 4 times there. I mean, the dizzying heights of where Spurs find ourselves now. We're back into the top half of the table. We're back into the top half of the league. And for all you older folks out there, you'll remember the days of teletext where you had to normally skip over to go to the second page. Cracknell, I'm looking at you directly there at all. Not that I dare look at you directly at all on that point.
What are you saying?
I've got to do that.
I'm
not saying anything. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Judge, jury, defence barrister.
I used to come here when it was all fields. And what about them fiddly 5p's? What about them?
Don't you dare.
What's your favourite chocolate bar, Rick?
We're going there again, are we? Oh, we're going to have to go for the Galaxy Caramel. We're going to go there again, are we? Get your chocolate bars, everybody. Get your chocolate bars in, everybody. Get your favourites in. Like I say, thank you so much for joining us. We're delighted to be joined by, top tier, regular, returning panellist, the last word on Spurs. I've got Mr. Richard Cracknell in the house. I've got the wonderful Chatty Patty back on our screens. And I've got the ever brilliant, and my God, what a shift he's been putting in the last few weeks. And so much so, we're having to force him to come over to the UK. We've got the wonderful actor himself, TJ Ramini, back in our house. We most certainly have. And that's on the back of the Spurs, beating Southampton by 5-0. Not sure about you guys. We really did all need that. We really, really did. Before we get the thoughts of our wonderful panellists on that game, let's give you the match facts and stats from that game. So Southampton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 5. Comprehensive win for Spurs. In terms of the shots on target, shots-wise, 9-18 in Tottenham Hotspur's favour. Southampton mastering 3 shots on target to Spurs' 9. 15 touches in the box for Southampton to Tottenham's 28. Keeper saves, it was 4 apiece. Foul Spurs, most certainly edging that one on 15-8. 2 offsides in the favour of Southampton. One of those actually ended up becoming a goal, which was ruled out effectively for offside. Corner-wise Spurs, edging it from 5-2. And position-wise Spurs, again, edging it on 58.4 to the 41.6% from Saints. XG, for all you lovers of XG out there, 0.71 for Saints and Tottenham 2.81. Look, full-time, Southampton 0, Tottenham 5. A perfect, you'd say, game for Ange Postecoglou in his Spurs side, in which Tottenham really did take some form of dominative control in those early stages. 3 goals in the opening first 14 minutes. James Maddison, a brace for James Maddison. Obviously, of course, James, one of those players that when he turns up on his day, he can be superb. And you saw that in that opening half. And a brace as well for Heung-min Son. Of course, a lot critical of Heung-min Son this season in terms of whether he's been up to his usual standard. And of course, in terms of other goal scorers, Dejan Kulusevski, who's really been Spurs' player of the season so far, back on the score sheet. And also Pape Sarr with a lovely finish for Pape, also back on the score sheet as well for him. Like I say, a lovely, lovely goal from Sarr, it has to be said. That really, like I say, in terms of the game itself, 5-0, put the cherry on top of a nice cake for Spurs in this one. TJ, I'll come over to you to open up this last word on Spurs. Thoughts on that win over Saints?
Absolutely elated, as we all are. I mean, my goodness, didn't we need it? I think it's just been such a torrid time for so many of us. And the last time I was on the show, I was saying we really feel like a team and a fan base at the moment who've just really had, the spirit kicked out of us. And so it was really important that we turned up today and put on a statement performance and come away with a victory. And we did just that, just delighted for the boys. Rick, Patty, Crackers, we've been all talking so much recently about not just losses, but the manner of a loss and how those losses have come to pass. And so I think it's really important for us to talk about today, not just the victory, but the manner of the victory. Ricky, you're a huge exponent of all that we demand of our team is application and energy and determination. And we got all that in spades today. I mean, listen, Absolutely. We're going to go on and talk about individuals. We're going to talk about the game. But let's just open up by saying big smiles on faces across the Tottenham fan base today. We really deserve it. And I'm just delighted to be back on this wonderful program, which is so dear to my heart, with these esteemed gentlemen who are just always wonderful.
We love you, TJ. We love you, TJ.
Brother. You too, Patrick. You too. And we can just enjoy ourselves, can't we, this evening for you and this afternoon for me. So happy to be back on the show. Thank you for all the lovely comments that are already coming in. We love you. This is going to be a great show. Happy to be back.
TJ, my man, thank you so much, bro. Isn't it lovely organising up to TJ over there? Patty will bring you in. I'm going to let Crackers to fest for a while. What am I thinking of? Letting Crackers to fest on Bamboozle of page 2 of the Premier League table. What am I thinking of? Patty, let's come over to you. Look, a much-needed confidence boost for Spurs in that 5-0 win over Saints. That ends, of course, as we know, a run of 5 games without a win. And now we can focus on what, for the club, is an absolutely huge Carabao Cup quarter-final on Thursday against United, which I know for many, many fans is, of course, a massive, massive game in the context of our season. As many know, for me, it's probably arguably the biggest game in my season as a Spurs fan. But, Patty, how important was that win, given the big, big week Spurs have got in store for you?
What I'll start with is, I don't care about Levy. He don't care about me. All I care about is Kulusevski. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't care. Nah, shout out to the away fans, man. That's all I heard all game. They were sensational, man. Like, literally could hear them through the TV screens. It was amazing. And to hear that chant, and obviously we scored in like the first 34 seconds, 54 seconds, whatever it was. And I heard Levy out chants all game as well. So it just goes to show it's not just people on the internet. It's not just Twitter. Like, the fans are really feeling it. And to hear that when you're winning a game and winning comfortably, it's not just when we're losing and there's boos. Like, we were comfortably winning that game the whole way through. And you could still hear the fans, you know, obviously voice their disdain to what's going on. So I think that shows you where, because I always hear a lot of like, oh, it's not all the fans that feel that way. I think it's a majority of the fans now that are really starting to feel that. And, you know, we don't want to take it away from the players and what's going on. And I had people DMing me saying, oh, why weren't you this loud against Chelsea and this and that? And I was like, we were to a degree. But when we're in the thick of the game and we're trying to win, you don't really want to take that away from what's going on. But obviously, you know, like today, the guys were flying and you still heard the chant. So I think that tells its own story. And to do a bit of housekeeping, because obviously this show's going to come thick and fast and we're all going to get into it. And shout out to everyone in the comments. I really want to shout out Jay. His Twitter handle is OJ Co. And he's leading the protest, the Levy Out protest on Sunday the 22nd. So obviously the game versus Liverpool kicks off at 4:30. And for everyone that's going to the home game, they're 3 p.m. opposite the club shop. That's when the protest will be on. And, you know, I keep having people say, oh, you know, what are you doing to get behind the Levy Out, you know, campaign? And what are you, like, listen, we all, if you are serious about it, or even if you just want to voice your concerns of what's going on this season and where we lay in the table and how the summer spend, whatever your concerns are, it's a friendly protest, 3 o'clock this Sunday opposite the club shop. I hope to see as many of you there as possible. I will be there. And I just want to shout out Jay because he's doing a great job. And it's at Change for Spurs. That's the handle on Twitter. So obviously follow them, see what they're saying. And, you know, listen, this is a positive show. We've had a great result. But also at the same time, I really want to bring a light to that and just make sure everyone that listens, whether it's today, right now, or on the audio, whatever through the week, you know what's going on. Because, you know, I don't shout out to all the guys that have done it before, but listen, we're not here to point fingers. We're not here to play the blame game. We're not here to be toxic. We're all coming together for the greater cause, which is the club that we love. So that's all I want to say regarding that. But yeah, back to the game. Sorry, I got a bit carried away, but I just wanted to put that out there before I forget. Back to the game. I think that was fantastic, man. We needed that. And obviously the naysayers will say, oh, Southampton, they're bottom of the league. And I know they are, but still at the end of the day, they're playing for their lives. You know, their manager's neck is on the line. Every person at the club, they're playing for their lives. And so were we to a degree. And you could see the difference. Like within the first couple of minutes, you know, if it's going to be a Spurs, you know, game where the players are going to be at it, on it. And we really were. And you saw the desire and commitment. I know it's Southampton, so that will kind of be the context of this, but every man to a T was fantastic. And that's the James Maddison I love. And when he scored that goal in the 49th minute, you know, just at the end of the second half, I put a tweet out saying, this is why you don't take a player of his quality off, because no matter what, that guy's always capable of doing the impossible. To score from that angle it's incredible. And because the game's already done, I don't think he got the credit he deserves. That finish is insane. Like, to score from that angle, top bins, that's unheard of. Like, the guy's just, and I saw Son. Son, 1 goal, 2 assists. He was brilliant. And my guy, Jed Spence, that guy's been held captive all year. And it's time to free him. Like, he's brilliant, man. Like, that run, the weighted pass for the first goal, and then obviously Madison finishing it. And he was just brilliant all game. Like, I loved what I saw today. And I know, like, obviously, again, it's Southampton, I know, but I thought everyone was brilliant. Archie Gray, really good, composed performance in the middle, the centre-back pairing. Because before the game, even, the pundits, which was, for the people that didn't watch the build-up, it was Crouchy, it was Joe Cole. They were saying that maybe Southampton, this is their day, because Tottenham, we had like 9 players out. But you wouldn't have known that watching the game. And brilliant.
Patty, thank you so much. And what do we say on this show? If players apply themselves correctly with effort, application, desire, that's the one thing that I said at the start of the previous show, that for me should be a given. I don't know why, that should even be in question. If players apply themselves correctly and rightly, then look, you get results like that. And I think, Pat, you mentioned that point, it's only Southampton. And to go back to your point there, Pat, you're right to say this, because ultimately we've seen Spurs slip up against, with all due respect, Ipswich at home, giving them a 2-0 away to Brighton. I think what this Premier League shows you and tells you is there's no easy game in the league. And right now, Cracks, we know, to be honest with you, you've been here for as long as I have, and last one on Spurs, God help you, which is why I think we're both killing each other out and aging each other. But the reality is that, whilst there is a division about whether it's the board, whether it's the manager, whether it's certain players, the reality is that we also have to say, when Spurs win a game, you've got to enjoy it for that second, right? Otherwise, there's no point in doing shows and creating content if you're just going to be absolutely drained about it. Yes, there's bigger things on the horizon. We can't get away from that. But you've got to take the win for a win. And what it does mean for Tottenham in terms of that win is essentially now only Arsenal and Liverpool have conceded less Premier League goals than Tottenham, while only Chelsea have scored more. We have a 17-plus goal difference while sitting 10th place. I mean, Cracks, we often joke about Spurs being some form of a social experiment. I mean, what are Tottenham right now, Cracks? What are they to you? I mean, look, that's our first win in, I believe, 9 games. Our first win in 9 in terms of the Premier League. So how big is that? Or dare I say maybe our second win in 9 Premier League games? Where do you put that win down to, and how important was that win given the context of the form that went before it?
We are a box of frogs, aren't we? We are a team that you can't put into an accumulator bet. You just really don't know what you're going to get with Tottenham. Before the game on our WhatsApp group, I said that I really didn't fancy us today. I thought that Southampton would come out and probably give us a bit, and we may well buckle. But as it happens, that didn't happen. Southampton were so poor today that even the world-renowned physician, Dr. Tottenham, couldn't even save them as they came into intensive care. But we was also very, very good. Really, really good today. And a big shout out to Jed Spence, because he set the tone from the get-go. That run that he made, in that first 25 seconds until we scored on 36 seconds, was something that we've really lacked and missed. It was just a real statement of intent. And we've taken a team that was very, very low on confidence, and with Southampton, and completely knocked the stuffing out of them with that. So Jed Spence absolutely set that in motion today, which is brilliant, because maybe if we don't do that, they get a first 5-10 minutes under their belt and settle a little bit, etc., and they're in the game. That was it. From 30 seconds, it was done. It was really done. You could see there was boos in the crowd. So that's exactly what we wanted to do. It was a perfect day, Rick. Absolutely perfect, because we needed the tonic of a win. We were quite depleted, but we managed to bring players in, and those players got us over the line. We actually managed to rest players as well in Son, and get him on the bench, because we got some big games coming up with a small squad. We managed to blood a couple of kids into the side as well. And like Pat said, the away fans today, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, that traditional kickoff time of 7 p.m. on a Sunday night, and you've got to go slapping down to the south coast from mainly from London, you know, or literally on a school night, was sensational, and they were brilliant because they actually got behind the team and also gave our dear chairman a little bit of a kick in as well and let their feelings know. Now, away fans are a real good barometer of where you are and who you are and what you are as a club, because you know, mainly people going to away games go to a lot of games to accumulate the points to get the tickets. So if you're starting to hear that from an away fan base and not just social media noise, you've really got to start looking at what you're doing as a chairman, as a board, as a club, if those people are beginning to turn on you as well. So even they found a fantastic balance of keeping behind the team, but in the bigger picture, keeping on top of this board. And, you know, to echo what Pat said, if you can get along to, you know, and have your say peacefully and within the limits of decency and the law, then do so. Why not? You know, this is something that should be done. So there's two things here. Yes, we're all happy because we always want to see Spurs win, and we also want better for the club. So, you know, it's not that, oh, you're just being a sour puss, etc., etc. No, I'm delighted we won today, but I'm also still angry about the way the club's being run. You can be both things. You don't have to conflate the two. So it was a real good day all round today. Excellent.
Amen. Well, it's quite interesting to actually bring up the away fans there. Let's hear a flavour of a couple of those chants that were being sung during the game. Just to give everybody a flavour back home for those that weren't there, what the away fans were like during that game. Let's hear a couple of different flavours of our away travelling support. So quite interesting there. You're hearing a couple of different, obviously, chants.
You wouldn't get that on teletext, would you, Rick?
Not these days, you wouldn't, I tell you. It's quite interesting. When you talk about that there, you know, you're getting the difference in terms of the fans really in support of Kulusevski, probably been Spurs' star of the season. I think it's quite genius that they've made up a song with Kulusevski's name in that, with Daniel Levy as well, which, again, to some degree kind of is, I think, a real state of where Spurs find themselves in now. You know, absolutely in love with Kulusevski, not so much with the chairman of the football club. And just to kind of show you that divide amongst the Spurs fan base at the moment, you know, 10 days ago, you had Ange Postecoglou having a confrontation with a supporter, and then 10 days later, you've got the away fans that are chanting his name, bellowing his name, which I think kind of really sums up just, you know, really at the moment, the division amongst the football club in terms of where everybody's at, which is really, really crazy. What we are going to do, for all of our watching audience here, our listeners and audio, we're going to go for our first break of the show, and you're going to hear Ange Postecoglou's thoughts on that win against Southampton by 5-0. Do not go anywhere. We are going to be back after this very, very short break. I'm going to bring you in that clip now of Ange Postecoglou after that win against Southampton. This is why beautiful it's live, where I'm now struggling as I am to try and find you how to do that. Bear me 1 second. We'll bring that in. We are going to attempt to bring that into the show. We really, really are. Bear me 1 second. This is the beauty of doing this show. We are going to find you those. We are going to bring you into Ange Postecoglou right now for our watching audience. And this is Ange Postecoglou's thoughts on the back of that win against Southampton.
Well, Ange, that was Tottenham's biggest win under you. What was your thoughts after the game?
Yeah, look, outstanding by the players. You know, we had a tough European game away on Thursday night. As I said before the game, we got 10 players unavailable. First 10 players unavailable out of a list of 25. So for the lads to come out with that sort of energy and that sort of quality in the first half is just outstanding. We needed to come out quickly because, fair to say, we knew we were going to get tired today because we're asking a lot of some of our players, and others haven't played at all. Sort of first starts, and the quality and sort of energy we showed in the first half was outstanding.
Was 36 seconds quicker than what you could have even anticipated for an opening goal?
Yeah, well, look, I've actually said to the boys, we've had great opportunities in the last 3 games within the first sort of minute of the game, and if we had taken them, you put pressure on the opposition, really good chances. And I said to them that before the game, let's be ready. We know we have fast starts, and it was a great endeavour by Jed and great finish by Madison.
Yeah, you must be pleased how Jed Spence took his opportunity tonight.
Yeah, he's had to bide his time. Fair to him that whenever he's played, he hasn't played a lot, but he's done well for us. We haven't been able to give him too much game time because probably fullback is the one area we got a bit of cover with Archie there as well. But we needed him to come in, not just play today, but play at a good level, and he did. And it's a credit to his training and the work that the lads, all the coaches do with him to make him ready and be able to perform like that.
Destiny and Doggy, did he come off injured?
Look, he felt something, but he actually wanted to continue. But we just can't take risks at the moment. Like I said, we're down to bare minimum. So I don't think it's anything too bad.
Did you need this tonight with the start of a big week?
But it sort of helps in terms of, you just want the players to feel good, get reward for their efforts because, like I said, we're asking a lot from a core group of players because we can't rotate, we can't sort of rest people. And, they've been sort of grinding it the last, couple of weeks. And you want them to feel good. You want them to get the reward for that. And, they will tonight. And, recover now and get ready for a big game Thursday.
Ange, thank you very much. Well done.
So there you go. That was Ange Postecoglou's thoughts right there on the back of Spurs thumping Southampton by 5-0. TJ, we played that clip out for our watching audience and those that are watching this show live that Ange Postecoglou had his name sung up full-time by the away fans 10 days on from that supporter confrontation against Bournemouth, as we know. Spurs fans, for those that were away from home in that stadium, making their backing loud and clear on Ange Postecoglou. We know how big a week this is for Spurs. How big a result is that for Ange? We talk about big weeks in football. I think for Tottenham fans, it doesn't come really any bigger. They've got a quarter-final in the Carabao Cup, a huge game which you're back here for, before bless you. You're on path to us over here, which we can't wait to see you for. And then they've got Liverpool to come. It just feels that's a massive result ahead of a big week. Is that fair to say, TJ?
More than fair, Rick. And I think that the Tottenham supporters that are in Ange's corner, we're all breathing a collective sigh of relief after that statement victory and such a dominant, magnificent performance to a man. Listen, he's a big boy. He's been in the sport for a long time. There's much debate as to whether he's been at the sport at the appropriate level, but I'm not going to get into that now. And so I've spoken before about Ange's intellect, and I think not just his mental intellect, but his emotional intellect as well. So I think he's let himself down recently in the way that he's spoken to the press, but he seems to have reined that in now, and he's not as kind of boisterous and humorous as he used to be, but he's going through a really difficult time. And I think as well, if he was in that kind of flippant, glib way that he was when he first came into the club, I think a lot of people would actually take exception to that, because we're in a very serious, up until today, a really serious rut. And so I'm really pleased for him. But most importantly, I'm really pleased for the club and for the fan base. My goodness, we needed something. We really needed something. We all felt so dejected, even, when we'd come onto this program. And remember, the viewers and listeners, of course, you're aware of this, but of course, we're all Tottenham fans, right? So before we come onto this program and try to spread joy when we can, and of course, with a very healthy dose of realism and pragmatism, we also, our emotions, we have to check those as well and make sure that we put on a show. And so I'm so pleased for him. I'm so pleased for the players. Most importantly, I'm happy for us and for our fans. And again, I know we've already spoken about the away fans, but they were absolutely magnificent today. Like Patty said, I mean, just singing from the first to the last. So huge respect to them. I've done those away games and I know what it's like. And obviously, public transport in the UK is often, shall we say, precarious. And so for those people who travel great distances at great expense to themselves, often in appalling weather, I'm so happy for you, man, that you can travel back home with smiles on your faces. So I'm delighted about that. I just want to have my Spence moment, because we've talked about Spence and I haven't. I mean, he was absolutely sensational today, echoing everything Patrick said, echoing everything that Cracker said, and also right from the off, like literally from the off. I mean, I think the first goal, was 37 seconds. But I just think as well, not just his ability and his physicality and his vision and all that kind of thing, but that takes massive mental control, mental fortitude. And, as our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters will say, and Crackers, of course, is one of them, cojones on this kid to come out like that. And, steppos and everything straight from the top and, an outside of the boot, Modric-esque pass. I mean, what a player he is. And he's sat there gathering dust. That's so difficult. I just looked him up. I thought he was either 24 or 25, 24 years old. So he's kind of coming into that point in his career. He's like, when am I ever going to get a shake here? And my goodness, he grasped that opportunity with both hands. I'm so happy for him personally. Big up Djed Spence, man. If you're listening, brother, we love you. We see you. We are marveled by you and we cannot wait for more. Big love to you, bro. You were magnificent.
Lovely words there, TJ. Lovely words. And we do echo those on Jed Spence. I think many, like all of us, have been kind of calling out for the fact this guy, just give him an opportunity, give him a chance. I think we make this point, on a number of shows here that, ultimately we know we've been decimated by injuries, but, Spurs have been in a position where the players they've had on the pitch in the most recent weeks, if we had showed that level of application and effort that we showed right from minute one in that game, you do feel like results in those previous games would have been different. And this is the crazy thing, these are one of the games where I think going into it, if you're, no disrespect when I say this, a really truly ingrained Spurs fan over many years, you go into that game today and you should be thinking about Spurs even dropping points or getting beaten, but you do think like that because psychologically this club have tended to do that over the past. And I think, Pat, one of the things that you actually said off air, which I hope I'm only bringing on air, Pat, I think you were really impressed by the way Spurs did have an element of control in that second half. We've made this point in certain games. I go back a week or so against Chelsea or 2 weeks ago now, that it was such a chaotic first 20 minutes against Chelsea that all Tottenham needed to do was really, as a team, take a breath, take control of the game, calm ourselves down. And the great thing about that second half was that, look, we were 5-0 up, right? Saints fans were streaming out, as many would see. The game was never in doubt. But what that gave us the opportunity to do was just simply, and we don't get this opportunity in the Premier League a lot of times, Patty, play out the game calmly, be able to rest a few players, bring some players off, and be able to prepare for what we know is going to be a massive game for Tottenham in the Carabao Cup on Thursday against Manchester United. Look, we're here to talk about Saints, of course, but we can't get away from the fact of just how big these next couple of games are. How much, Patty, do we give Ange the credit there for that game management of the way Spurs did handle that second half and did allow themselves to rest some players for Thursday in between what we know is a bit of an injury crisis for the club?
Yeah, Ricky, exactly. Really well said. And literally, I brought it up when we was backstage off air. And that's what I was really impressed about as well. Of course, the first half, we were fantastic, scintillating going forward, scored some really good goals, had a lot of shots on target. But what impressed me, and, I've been really critical of Ange, rightfully so. And one of my biggest bugbears with Ange is his tactical in-game management. And I thought he managed that game really well. We're 5-0 up. There's no point going crazy and trying to get 6, 7 or 8 and, exerting, possibly getting injuries, leaving ourselves open and them hitting us on the counter, or so to speak. We sat back a bit and just chilled out, let them have a bit of the ball. We've got 5 goals, try and break us down. And I really like that. We're not trying to obviously get players injured. We've got 2 big games, Man United on Thursday, Liverpool on Sunday. And we controlled that game. The clean sheet was never really in doubt. I know they had the ball in the back of the net, but the guy was miles offside. And yeah, that's a really, really good win for me. The 5 goals is massive confidence boost, especially when you look at the people involved in the goals. Madison, Son, Jed Spence setting the one up, Sarr again, Kulusevski, guys that give them a world of confidence. These are some of our best players and guys that we're going to need in great form going into 2 big games. And then also another clean sheet, 4-star, the centre backs getting a clean sheet. And yeah, like we just kept them out. So I was really impressed with that. And then also as well, Ange bringing in some of the youngsters, possibly throwing Timo Werner back in straight away. So there's not too much going on there. Obviously, Ange dug him out for the ones that didn't hear the comments after, Rangers away. And he threw him back in. And, Werner did what Werner does, but he's back in, and hopefully we can all move on from that. So for me, it was a great game in terms of all facets of the game. And yeah, long may it continue. And I see a few comments like, "Oh, Pat, are you still Ange out?" I was never Ange out. Obviously, he wasn't my first choice, but once he's here, he's here. And even when things have got sticky, you guys know, anyone that follows me or listens to me, I'm not calling for the manager's head because there's no point. That isn't really the point. We have to see this through, as I said. And it's obviously about the board and the people above Ange. And
I actually quoted you on the show last week, Pat, saying exactly that. People who say Patrick says Ange, he's never been that. Sorry to interrupt you, brother, but I absolutely said,
and I think
quote Pat from the last show that I was on, he said, he's come in, I'm backing him. Let's give him a chance to see what he does till the end of the season. So absolutely right, man. You've never said Ange out.
And I think comprehension is key. And I know people try and have me trip over words and stuff like that. It's crazy. And like even on the football terrace, they were trying to get me to say Ange out. And I'm like, there's no point of calling Ange out. Let's see how the season goes.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Pat, you know what it is? Yeah. It's that old adage I go back to, isn't it? I like carrots. I like peas. I like cabbage. I like potatoes. I like broccoli. I'm not too sure about parsnips. Why do you hate vegetables? It's that, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm not too sure about. No, you hate all vegetables, don't you? Why don't you like vegetables? It's like everything. Every damn thing has to be like black, white, binary, 1 0, 1 0, 1 0. No. Like, there's grey. There is greys there. There's shades of grey between the black and the white. So, it's crazy. It is crazy.
And for me, just to go off the back of what TJ and Crackers had just said, I think for Ange has a lot of good qualities, and we can see there's a manager there. The fact that we scored so many goals defensively as well, we've obviously not conceded that many compared to the other teams. The losses is a big concern for me. I think how open we are in the middle of the pitch is a concern. But if he can tweak and get right a few things, then there's a manager there that we can hopefully get behind and have for a long time, as long as he's backed. I don't believe we need to keep hiring and firing. It's not got us anywhere, but it has to be the right man. So, time will tell. Hopefully we can beat Man United. Hopefully we can beat Liverpool and things will start to calm down a bit. It's in Ange's hands at the end of the day. The injuries haven't helped him, I get it. But obviously sometimes he has done some crazy things that also haven't helped him. So it's a bit of that, really.
Yeah, Patty, thank you so much. I mean, Cracks, we come on to this point about the manager, which I know is a dominant subject really every game at the moment. And look, the reality is that, let's be honest about it, Southampton are clearly a terrible side, but at the same time, when you're looking at a performance like that, it's very hard to sit there and say for anybody. I just think that Ange's lost the dressing room. He's come out absolutely, firing on all cylinders of players. They've gone 3-0 up in the space of 14, 15 minutes. They've won the game 5-0. They've shown an element of control in the second half in terms of game management, And the reality is that we know what it's like, Cracks. You've been here for many manager sackings on last one on Spurs, that this is normally the time now where results are a bit up and down, with all due respect. If it's 1 win in 9, that, you do start getting stories from, external sources or internal sources that there's some players that aren't happy. But to be fair, as we record at the moment here, on the back of that win against Southampton, pretty much instant reaction, we've heard nothing from the players to suggest that they've got any issue with Ange Postecoglou. And that's despite the fact only, 72 hours ago, he said he wouldn't criticise a player. He then did criticise a player in Timo Werner. And still after that, we've heard nothing of suggestions that there's any issue around the camp about Ange Postecoglou. So does that tell us at the moment that based on that performance alone, the players are fully bought into this from what you can see from your own eyes?
Well, this is the thing. It's all very well sat here, 2,000 miles away from Tottenham, and I can say that I've got some doubts and concerns going forward about who he is and what he is and how he manages certain situations and some of the things that he says about players, etc., etc., etc. The facts are, it does appear that the players are still playing for him, which is probably the number one and most important by far thing that you need for a manager. And secondly, the good people of Tottenham Hotspur fan base are generally still getting behind him. Again, I go back to this barometer of your away fans, and most are actually behind him. But, we just occasionally point out some little edges and things and foibles that we would rather see wasn't happening. It will be interesting to see with Ange if he starts getting some fair results, but the leave it out campaign rolls on and grows. What happens with Ange? Because the normal MO of this club and board is as soon as the chairman starts to feel a little bit of heat coming round the corner, to quote Robert De Niro, he'll fire the manager, and then he gets like the emperor's new clothes, and it takes the heat off of him a little bit. So that will be quite interesting to see what happens coming down the road. I want Ange to succeed. I wanted AVB to succeed. I'd have liked Stellini to succeed, Mason to succeed, Hoddle, Redknapp, any of them.
Not title chasing Nuno.
or indeed Nuno, all of them. I want them to succeed because I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan, but sometimes they don't, and you have to make the change. So look, if he's getting results and the players are playing for him and the fan base are generally happy, then who am I and who is anyone to sort of question his whole entire future? But you can look at certain little things and bits and pieces. Someone just mentioned in the comments there, the man in the raincoat. No, he could absolutely do one. I was never behind him because he's as Arsenal as you like. So not him. I never got behind him. I'm glad he went. But you get what I'm saying. It's and you can add Tim Sherwood to that as well. I was never much of a fan of him, but the others, been great. So look, let's see if he gets some proper backing. I mean, proper backing, not sort of make do amend that he seems to get all the time. Then let's see where he is, because since the board came in, when top players were maybe £20 million, we always shopped in the 5 million players. And then your top players went to 40, 50, and we were buying 20, 22 million pound players. Now we're at a stage of 80 and 100 million pounds gets you great players. And we're shopping at the 60s. So that's something. The top players will always win you stuff, will absolutely always win you stuff. So this is where we need to get to. They just cannot be any issue of backing this manager in transfer windows with some real top quality, good to go players for now. And then your team in the background starts picking you out an Archie Gray and a Bergvall that you hope will come through, and you start dipping them in. That's the cycle of what you need to do. So, with Ange, look, if he's getting results and the players are playing for him, crack on, mate.
Yeah, listen, I totally agree on that. And like I say, at the end of the day, results will always be the bearing of managers' success, managers' failure. And as we know in football, it is a results-driven business. We need to see more of what we've seen in that game now, consistently if we can, across the season, to give everybody the confidence that we've got a really exciting campaign ahead of us. I make that point again, Spurs are still in all 4 competitions. Things are still very much in their control, in their hands. And we know how big this next week is for Tottenham. Again, I'll re-emphasise that point. A massive quarter-final in the Carabao Cup. We actually spoke off air. TJ brought it up about how poor that Manchester derby was. United coming over 2-0 or a 2-1 victory there. With all due respect, I don't know whether you pay a huge amount of real attention to the scoreline because of United's up and down nature. We know how big that Carabao Cup tie is for the football club, how much we need a trophy, how much we want a trophy. So this is a big, big result. So what we are going to do, before we look back on this result, we're going to bring in James Maddison's thoughts on the back of that win against, of course, Southampton. And we're going to be back with you after this very, very short break as we open up on the goals from the game and our post-match thoughts. James Maddison, can we find James Maddison? We're going to try and find you, James Maddison. Bear with me 1 second. James Maddison is now available to speak to. James, we're going to bring James in.
Yeah, no, a great night. And it was an important night for us as well, you know. You can see in the Premier League at the minute, there's teams, big teams, all throughout the league struggling to get results and going through like rough patches. We've been on a little bit of one ourselves. So like, make no mistake about how important that victory and that performance is. Sometimes you have to show fight. People will say about Southampton not being able to pick up results this year and being down there, but that was a big night for us.
36 seconds that opening goal came. Tottenham's quickest goal in the Premier League since 2018. But that pass from Jed Spence, he's had to wait for his opportunity as well, hasn't he?
He has, and he's been patient, and he's a great lad. I said to him before, Jed's quite a laid-back character anyway, so I don't think he needed too much of a pep talk. I just told him before, go and do what you do, and I can't remember too much. I think he got the ball and managed to wriggle away like he does, which he's very good at. And that's a run that I've been working on for years, you know, that left pocket run in behind the defence. And to be fair to Jed, it was a brilliant weighted pass, perfect, and I just had to finish it off. So big credit to Jed for that one.
And then the confidence, 2, 3 and 4 just came.
Well, we know we can do that as a team, you know. We can blow any team away in this league, not just teams like Southampton. We went to Man City and did it. Obviously, it's up to us to show that on a more consistent, regular basis. But that was a proper performance today, and I'm really proud of the lads because, like I said, I reiterate that what we needed a big night tonight, and showed grit and determination in Glasgow on Thursday night because it's not an easy place to go. Rapid turnaround. We're really short on numbers in terms of the squad, so proud of the boys. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. You are the player of the match as well, so take that home with you.
Cheers.
Well, there you go. That was eventually James Maddison on the back of that win against Southampton. People got to say, isn't it unbelievable? How in transition am I during this show? You know, I've been really complimented by the way we've always managed to go to the next scene so easily, such in transition. And look, everyone's due an off night. It's been a bit of an off night in terms of the transitions, right? So please forgive me. One person had a really, really bad off night, can I just say, is Russell Martin. He's just lost his job at Southampton. So that's the effect of that Spurs win that had. Southampton just put out a statement. This is football, right? We can confirm that we've taken the difficult decision from Southampton to part ways with our men's first team manager, Russell Martin. We'd like to thank him for obviously all the hard work he's done behind the scenes, given on and off the pitch over the last 18 months. I mean, with all due respect, we'll come on to it, of course, during this part of the show, that, look, when you've got your own supporters walking out 3-0, 4-0 down, never a good sign. Never a good sign.
Let's face it, Rick, he walked out 2 minutes before the half ended as well, didn't he? And he missed that fifth goal. I mean, the moment he walked down the tunnel with like 2-3 minutes to go and that happened, it was either tonight or tomorrow morning, wasn't it? He knew he was done. Yeah. So, but it's a tough old game. Football at this level, you got to get your big boy pants on, and okay, he's lost his job, but I tell you what, I bet he's still able to go and get a bit of shopping and pay the electric bill next week. So, like, you know, don't worry too much for him. So, but yeah, that's football. That is football. It's like I remember hearing an interview from a manager once who just lost his job, a young manager, and I think he went off to the league manager awards that night, and he literally lost his job a couple of days before, and he bumped into Neil Warnock. And Neil said to him, like in his style, "You okay?" "Well, you know, I lost my job." And he went, "Oh, come on, soft lad. You're not a manager in this game until you've been sacked 3 or 4 times." And that's spot on. It is absolutely spot on. So, there you go.
There you go. Crackers, killing with kindness. Always away. Killing with kindness, Crackers, killing with kindness. Right. We're going to open, of course, on that win against Southampton. Obviously, a win for Spurs, much needed. Quite interestingly, Spurs, they're the first team in the Premier League this season that ended up with 4 teenagers on the pitch at the same time. Now, you could argue that was due to our injury crisis, or you could argue that's because Ange Postecoglou is giving youth a chance. And again, that's without Mikey Moore. We know Mikey Moore is on his way back very, very soon in terms of his own injury. You know, Mikey has been suffering from a virus. But just to bring in the team for this one, Ange Postecoglou made 5 changes to his Spurs side. An update on where we are in terms of the squad absentees. I know even we're getting confused where we are at the moment. Yves Bissouma joined Rodrigo Betancourt on the suspension list with Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven, Guillermo Vicario, Ben Davis, Richarlison, Wilson Odobert, all out injured, and Mikey Moore recovering from an illness. Quite honestly, I'll tell you, I'm running out of paper to go through Spurs' injury crisis at the moment. You'll have to forgive me. That's why, obviously, the logical people now would switch to an iPad. I'm still working on paper, so please do forgive me on that. The lack of centre-backs meant 18-year-old Archie Gray continued alongside Radu Dragashin in the midfield of the defence, with Bissouma and Betancourt suspended. The number 6 role was handed to Lucas Bergvall, who made his first Premier League start for Spurs. Tottenham had to rotate in other areas as well after that tough midweek draw at Rangers. It meant Jed Spence finally came in for his first competitive start for Spurs. Brennan Johnson dropping to the bench, which is made up of 5 teenagers, with 2 of them just 16 years old and another 17 years old. Credit, of course, to friend of the show, Ali Gold, for that stat there. That team read for Tottenham: Forster, Spence, Gray, Dragashin, Udogie, Sarr, Bergvall, Madison, Kulusevski, Solanke, Son. As we mentioned, 2 18-year-olds in the spine of the team, 2 players making their Premier League full debuts, and a very, very young bench. And amongst the players on the bench for Tottenham, Will Lancashire ranks 4th in the number of Premier League appearances. He made only 1 Premier League appearance at this point in time for Spurs. Bare bones for sure. That bench reading Austin Porro, Dorrington King, Hardy Olise, Johnson, Werner, Lancashire. And just so many are aware, I'm sure they were, for those that watched the game, listen back to the game on the rerun. We can confirm Daniel Levy was in attendance for the game. And there was a chance really beforehand, 15 minutes before, chanting the removal of Spurs' chairman. And then the away fans broke into that very, very quickly. We want Levy out for the first 30 seconds of the game. And then we've got that cracking start for Spurs. Spurs ahead in just the opening 36 seconds. And it was all from Jed Spence. Jed Spence, like I say, I think many would say this has been the performance or the game we've been waiting for Spence to be given an opportunity. And thankfully, he did. Lovely, lovely run from Jed Spence. A brilliant little dribble before he played in Madison, who rifled home for Spurs. At that point, it was his 6th goal of the season. We know he did his 7th as well later on. And occurred after that, we want Levy out chance straight after Madison's opener for Tottenham. And to be fair, we made this point, if I can come around to TJ on this. TJ, how many times have we said, start fast, start well, get in the opposition faces? And that's exactly what Tottenham did. And we go 1 up, TJ. Is it that hard?
Not according to us, but we're not there in the dressing room, are we? I mean, listen, man, I even resorted to saying, let's do like an American football style. Let's have a big banner that they run through with fireworks going off and cheerleaders doing backflips and stuff. Whatever it takes to breathe fire into these lads so they do explode from that first whistle. Whatever we need to do in order to see that result, let's do it. So whatever was said in the dressing room today, again, I do think that the away fans being quite so vocal and quite so energetic and supportive and rousing would have helped the players. So yeah, let's just replicate what we did today in the dressing room before we came out onto the pitch, because Rick, we don't see that often enough, man. And again, we're a young side, right? We're a young, supposedly swift, energetic team. So why we don't use that to our advantage right from the off is perplexing to me, and I'm sure to millions of other Tottenham fans. So I was so pleased to see us bursting out of the gates, especially for a team that's rock bottom at the bottom of the table, but who do tend to perform well at home. People I'm sure haven't forgotten, or but perhaps allow me to give a gentle reminder. This is a team that barely lost 3-2 to Liverpool at home. They barely lost 1-0 to Aston Villa at home. And there's nothing so dangerous as a wounded animal who's backed into the corner. And so we had a lot to do today. Crackers articulated it perfectly by saying, listen, people will talk about that Southampton weren't at their best today, but we didn't allow them to be at their best. And right from that first whistle, and I'm so thankful as well that the ball ended up at Jed Spence's feet quite so early, because again, I mean, listen, we've all sung his praises, but I'm going to do it again just to kind of have the mentality. Let me burst forward here with my first run when I haven't played since Methuselah was a boy. That takes real courage. And for a 24-year-old young man who's been, sitting on the bench like an ornament, just to come bursting out of the blocks and to stride forward. He glided past his man like he wasn't even there. Even his second attempt as well, like he did like a little sort of Cruyff-esque turn. He ended up treading on this poor lad's foot. I think that's what that photograph is about. But the fact that he always tries that stuff. We were talking about deficiencies with our wide men on the show that I was on a couple of days ago, and saying how having two wide players, this is when Timo was playing left and Johnson was playing right, having neither wide men prepared to take on a fullback is an enormous issue for this team. And again, for anyone that's played, if you've ever played kind of defensively, if you know that an attacking player isn't prepared to take you on, it makes your job so much easier, because you know what I'll do? I'll show him down the line. I'll just step inside. I'll just step into the box. Either side you're on. I've played left back, right back, whatever. I'm just going to show you down the line, big man, because you're not going to want to beat me on your weak foot. And also, you don't want to take me on, because it's not going to work. And so you're just going to look for a pass. I'll show you down the line and I'll just intercept that pass when it comes. And so having whether he plays right back or left back, having a player like Djed Spence who just keeps you guessing, and also man can beat you left or right. It's a disaster. It's a nightmare. It's like, like when Son's at his best, I don't know if he's going to go left or right. And so having that guy at right back or left back who will not only beat a man, but knows he can do it, massive advantage to us, man. So I think that's one of the reasons why we had such energy from the start, was because of that young man. And that's infectious. It spreads throughout the squad, just like that awful malaise that we seem to have in too many games recently. That also spreads throughout the squad. So more of that energy, boys, more of that enthusiasm, more of that belief, more of that confidence, because it's infectious and it will help us moving forward.
Totally agreed. Just on this point, coming over to you, Cracks, if I can. Spurs, for the second Premier League game in a row, they lead inside the first 15 minutes by 2-0. Sonny scoring the goal. Madison again involved as his cross was from deep, flicked on by a Saints defender, and Heung-min Son absolutely lashing home for Spurs to double our lead at the back post. Like I say, a really important goal for Son, you could argue. And, for Sonny, it's his 13th goal versus Southampton. The home support at that time responding with, "We want Martin out." They did get their wish, of course. Obviously, after full time, we announced, obviously, on here a couple of minutes ago that Russell Martin has lost his job at Saints. And this is the thing with Tottenham, isn't it? It started so well at 2-0 that Saints felt obligated. They had to bring on another centre-back, given that I think they were concerned Spurs were going to absolutely thrash them. And I mean, how many times have you come in here, Cracks, and say that if you start like that, teams have got no chance of us, right? We are lethal when we start like that in that mood.
Firstly, magnificent mention from TJ there of Methuselah. Absolute. Follow that fighting cock. Come on. We're talking Methuselah here. The man that lived.
If you remember his childhood, Crackers.
Flav over there. Flav at the fighting cock before this gets clipped. Flav, we like you, mate.
The Stone Tablet comic books of Methuselah's
I think
childhood.
Cracks really has to tool up there. Flav and Ricky. Flav, get ready, Cracks. We're coming for a tear up. Macca, Patrick, bring your boots. Ricky, Flav, we're coming, boys. We're not boys, we're not.
969 years old. 969 he lived to. If he's a Tottenham fan, he'd have half a chance of at least seeing one cup, wouldn't he? With 969 years, he might just see one. So it's fantastic. Yeah, second goal. You get going, get at them, get them beat. They're done. They were so paper thin with their confidence that was just, it just hammered them, absolutely hammered them. Son's put that away. They're all over the place, and it was job done. I think it was job done from goal one, to be honest. There was already booing, but to really go at them, and then 2 and then 3, that's what you want to see. You've got to put teams to the sword and show the intent, and then keep your foot on their throat as well, because when it got to 2-0, I did stick in the WhatsApp group. Spurs are 2-0 up. Nothing can go wrong now. Nothing can go wrong now at all. So you've got to keep going. And like Pat and TJ alluded to earlier, the management as well. After we got the goals, the job was done. And we eased off, and we took players off, and we just controlled the game. So, I mean, it ended up almost like an ideal training session more than anything, to be honest, where we didn't have to go at full pelt because we've got a couple of big games coming up. So get the job done early. Then you can get your cigar on, rest a couple of players, ease up a little bit. Not exert too much energy. So it was fantastic, absolutely perfect, and just what the Dr. Tottenham ordered, Rick.
And how important cracks for Sonny. I think Sonny, with all due respect, I think he said himself, he's not been at the levels that we know. I think, can I be honest with you, that's a combination of being overplayed, not just, this season, but overplayed in terms of the sense that, Sonny's a bit of a marketing tool, isn't he? Let's be honest about it. He's travelling all over the world, being gallivanted around different places, in the benefit of Tottenham, with all due respect for their financial reasons. Do you think with Sonny, these are the goals that could really kickstart his season for Tottenham overall?
Yes and no, because, Southampton are in a bad place. So what you need to do, what you need from your players, be it Sonny or anybody else, Madison, etc., what you then need to do is to go on from there. And you need to try and put that type of performance in, starting at, say, like a Newcastle away or a United away. And then you go on to try and, can they do that at Liverpool away? Can they do that at City away, Arsenal away? It's Chelsea away. This is where you need to have your players putting in that type of performance, but at that level of opposition. So, look, it's going to do no harm at all. You can only beat what's put in front of you. But then you have to kick on, and you have to be effective in those bigger games. If we can see Son and Madison do that in these next 2 games and affect the game the way they did today, then you've got something. Then you have really, really got something. And this is what I'm talking about, bringing in those players that are at those level. You bring players in that can affect those away games, especially, and and bring home the bacon for you. That's what you've got to do to actually do something in this league. You really have to.
Totally agree. But Spurs, of course, it goes to 3-0, and that's within 13 minutes. Tottenham going 3-0 up. Kulusevski tapping home for Spurs after Son's cross perfectly fell for him, really. And I think many would argue this was becoming the dream afternoon for Spurs in the context of the game. The fact that they've gone 3-0 up so early in there in the opening 15 minutes, and again, more chance of we want Martin out. I should just actually say, in amongst the Spurs 3 goals, really important, I want to bring context to this. The Ante-Levy chance was started up again straight after each goal, which again, I think, as Pat said, it does mean you can still celebrate Spurs winning despite also wanting the chairman out. And there's no harm where you can't find that balance. So again, I want to make that point. Continuous chanting of Daniel Levy's removal at the club as chairman, despite Spurs going 1-2, 3-0 up within the 13 minutes of the game. And it was turning to be a nightmare for the hosts. It's the first time a team has led 3-0 this early since 2011. And the Spurs fans are in the away end chanting, I don't care about Levy. He don't care about me. All I want is Kulusevski. 100 Premier League appearances and counting for Kulusevski in a Spurs shirt. A goal for him. He has arguably been, Pat, come over to you, Spurs' player of the season so far. And you know what, Pat, we've been, again, in this game, quite honestly, doing what we feel we should have done throughout a lot of these games this season and really putting a team to the sword, Pat. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we put them to the sword, man. Put them on the barbecue, and yeah, they got roasted and toasted, and then sliced and diced, and it was brilliant and beautiful to see. And like everyone said already, like 4-0 up, we were cruising. 5-0 up, literally, in injury time was the cherry on the cake. And then second half, we just chilled out, stroked the ball around when we needed to, relaxed, soaked up a bit of pressure. Keeper had a good day, defenders had a good day, all the attacking quartet had a good day, midfielders were brilliant. I think everyone was brilliant. Ange managed the game fantastically. Obviously, you saw, Dorrington get his first start, first minutes in the Premier League. Burville getting his first start for Spurs. Jed Spence getting his first start in the Premier League this season. So there was a lot of positive moments in this game, and it's always sad to see a manager get sacked off the back of a result like that, but the writing was on the wall for Southampton. And obviously after a toasting like that, and the fan unrest on their side, fans leaving straight away, all the chants of Martin out, it was kind of untenable. But it's not nice to see. But obviously for us, it's business as usual. We got to do what we need to do, and this Premier League is brutal, as you know. We just got to put teams to the sword, like you said, and then also just not switch off. There was a few moments in the second half where we did get a bit slack, a few misplaced passes, which can happen when you're in total cruise control. But then we literally upped the ante again and just saw the game out. And for me, that was brilliant, because that's what a team needs to do. You're not always going to win beautifully like this. There are going to be moments where you've got to soak up pressure or win ugly or manage a game. And if you can start to see that in a team, then you know that you've got something there. And so, we've got obviously bigger litmus tests like the games coming up. And it's just to see how we manage that. Of course, the injuries. I mean, I made a list of it. I mean, obviously, BT.
Pat, I'm actually right, Pat. Is your big book enough to cover our injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I do my notes in like a
it's a wad. It's a wad.
So this is like the rough one, but then the proper notes, when I got the time, I put them in my little like blue book. So this is what I keep with me, and as you guys know, I can go back 2 years, 3 years.
For our listeners and audio, our injury crisis is so bad that Pat has had to draft the injury crisis and then put it back in writing for us.
I don't know if it's going to focus, but yeah, you can see, look, Spurs absentees, Bentancur suspended, Basuma suspended, Davies, and then I put a note of all the people on hamstrings. We've got 4 players out with hamstring injuries, by the way. So that is a big concern
for those that aren't seeing this, Patty as well, just for those that watch, that book goes straight from Patty's face down to his shoes. That's how big that wadded book is.
I mean, my writing's horrible. I got doctor's writing, but other than that, yeah, all the notes are there for for me to keep account of and so on. And yeah, man, I think from a Spurs point of view, that was like Crackers I think said, that was the perfect game in the sense of goals, managing it, a clean sheet, bringing players in, all of that stuff. And as well for Ange as well, I think that was a good game for him to like pretty much like again. I saw people in the comments say, I don't keep saying it's only Southampton. Yes, it is only Southampton, but you've also got to beat what's in front of you. And like you guys have said, they've had sticky or tricky games with some of the bigger clubs. And I didn't know going into this that our record against Southampton and St. Mary's isn't that good. Like, we'd only won once there in the last 7 games. I wasn't aware of that up until, and when you're told a stat just before kickoff, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, why have you not told me this now? So I was like, oh, here we go. But luckily, we saw that game out, and yeah, it's good to know, man. It's good to see, and yeah, I'm happy. And the thing is, we can enjoy this game and enjoy this moment, and obviously,
absolutely.
It's back to business as usual. It's back to feeling how you feel about the board or the manager, but you can enjoy the games for what they are, 100%.
Totally agree. I just got that thought, Patty, of that GTA animation going, oh, here we go again. as soon as you heard that stat.
When I heard that stat, I was like, why have they told me this? When you're just like, oh, I didn't really want to know that.
I know. Just don't need it. Look, soon after, Cracks mentioned that point. I totally agree with Cracks. It was becoming a bit of a training exercise. There were Spurs players lining up on the edge of the box to score. Spence and Sochi both scuffed decent chances. That Southampton were so brittle after that 3-0 scoreline. And soon after, Pape Sarr made it for bringing TJ back in here. Again, lovely effort from Pap. I think, again, it's not been an easy last couple of weeks for him, of course, involved in giving away that penalty against Chelsea. I think it's fair to say that he, more than anyone, would have been really suffering and hurting from that moment. But I've got to say, the quality of this goal, CJ, he carries the ball right through the Southampton penalty area and Twinkle toes his way past Wood, fires home for 4-0. I mean, TJ, this goal is rural quality, isn't it, from Pape Sarr?
He was absolutely sensational today. Sensational. And again, a player that I have huge respect and admiration and affection for, actually. Just seems like such a lovely lad. And often hard for these guys to come into, you know, the biggest league in the world at an all-star team like Tottenham, and, you know, the middle of the park, there's never a dull moment. And his energy today, the goal aside, even if he hadn't scored today, I would be singing this lad's praises, because he was absolutely just on his game today, about his business, non-stop energy. And again, that's the kind of enthusiasm and exuberance that spreads throughout a team. It's so important. It's so important that that cohesion is there, that reliability is there, that other players are seeing dedication and commitment, especially Crackers said before, Patty's talked about it many times, how open we often are in the middle of the park. So players like Sarr are absolutely vital to us, especially when Bergvall gets his Premier League start alongside him. I also thought he had an excellent game today. He seemed very assured in possession. Nothing too kind of outstanding or scintillating or exhilarating about what he did, but it was a stalwart performance. And sometimes that's what you need in that number 6 position. Made no mistakes, didn't give the ball away needlessly. And again, we've been so profligate in possession of late. The last show I was talking about our passing being at an amateur level. My brother was saying to me, I wonder where we would be on stats, at how many remember I did the tennis analogy when I said about unforced errors in tennis. If we looked at kind of unforced errors or unforced giveaways in passing, we would be in the top 3, I would imagine, in the Premier League. So Lucas Bergvall coming in and for his Premier League start, I thought had a really solid, dependable game, and the energy and the creativity and the brilliance came from Pape Sarr, and it was all topped off so wonderfully with an inspirational goal, beautiful technical feats, trickery, guile. I mean, he's a magnificent player, and I just cannot wait to see how he develops. Big up to the lad.
Lovely words, TJ, and totally agree. And what that means at that point was for Heung-min Son, he had recorded multiple assists, 8 Premier League games, and equalled the record. Actually, Darren Anderton was setting the record of 67, which again is quite a little nice tie into that. You know, Darren Anderton, for many maybe of the older folk in here, don't want to age everybody in here, or those that are listening back on audio. Darren Anderton, I think, in his time was very much criticised for maybe his lack of availability. But you know what, Cracks? I don't want to. Am I going to Cracks? I'm so sorry, Cracks. I don't know how age you, but Darren Anderson was a fine player for Tottenham, wasn't he? When he was fit, he was a very good player with big ability. And I think it says a lot that, you know, Sonny, for the amount of years he's been here, Sonny, has only just now, like I say, surpassed that record of Darren Anderson, holding the most assists for Tottenham Hotspur in the league.
I used to love watching Darren Anderson on teletext. He was fantastic, Rick. He's Darren Anderson. Wow. He was one of those players that he was a bit like Michael Carrick and a bit like Chris Waddle and maybe even Luka Modric. There was a section of the Spurs fans that was like, get rid of Waddle, get rid of and get rid. But Carrick as well. They're fabulous player, absolutely fabulous. And this so-called sick note jibe and nickname that he's got came, of course, from the quiet, unassuming Lord Sugar, didn't it? I mean, he sort of set the ball in motion with that. But a really good guy. I've had the pleasure of working with him a few times. A really, really nice guy as well. Love Spurs. Absolutely love Spurs. And here's a mad fact. Okay, I'll set you all some homework to do out there. Go and have a look at Darren Anderton's appearance records, not his honours or anything, just his career in length, the amount of appearances he had, the amount of time that he had missing with injuries, etc., etc., etc. I promise you, he actually nearly mirrors exactly Roy Keane. That is a stat. You look at Roy Keane's appearances and games he missed and games he came on for, etc. Roy Keane and Darren Anderson have very, very similar appearance records Now, obviously, Roy Keane's got the honours and the medals, etc. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about career appearances. Him and Roy Keane almost mirror each other. Now, you think of the narrative around Roy Keane and the narrative around Darren Anderton. So this sick note business is an absolute myth. It is an absolute myth. He was a fine player for us. So for Sonny to get to his levels tells you quite a lot about Sonny as well.
Oh, man, lovely words there, Cracknell. Thank you so much. Again, for those that are maybe of a younger vintage, a younger age, that weren't aware of Darren's career at Spurs. Like Crack said there, he had some unbelievable moments in the Spurs shirt. And it's the same, look, he did suffer from a number of injuries. But again, similar to Ledley, I know many are kind of contributing to when they're actually watching the show live that if only we could keep him fit for longer, I'm sure Darren's career would have extended even further. And I'm sure he would have appeared a lot more for England. Because again, when fit, England did use Darren. And again, we've had the pleasure of interviewing Darren Anderson in the past on Last Word on Spurs on the audio days. Absolutely loves the club, loves the Crack club. And I know Crackers, you've worked with him before. Lovely, lovely man. And like I say, I know he's proper Spurs and always looks out for our results. So Darren, that's for you, my man. And I say for Sonny, a great record for him to become Spurs' all-assist leading in the Premier League is very special. And I'm sure Sonny does, of course, caveat that and cover that very, very well for him. Look, at that point, Spurs being 4-0 up, the travelling support making their feelings very, very clear. They were singing Ange Postecoglou's name loud and very much far and wide. Some Saints fans had already been leaving, actually, after that fourth goal went in. Some couldn't wait to head for the exits. And to be fair to them, you couldn't have blamed them. Really a tough, tough day for Saints, which, again, for those who have missed that in this show, has resulted in them sacking Russell Martin with immediate effect on the final whistle. And it must be said that that fourth goal all came from the work and the persistence of Destiny Udogie, who actually won the ball in his own half. And this is quite frankly, isn't it, about Spurs in general, why we always ask that question, why can't we have nice things? I mean, TJ, Destiny limps off, looking pretty gutted. He gets a word of comfort from both Son and Madison. Pedro Porro sent on, and we make that point, obviously, Saints fans leaving at that point. What's your thoughts, TJ? I've got to ask you very quickly on this. I know we've got a lot to get through here. Spurs are understood to be reviewing their own medical team, again, in another season when they've had a whole host of injuries. Is that something you feel needs to be done by the football club when you're having this amount of injuries? Is that the way in which Ange Postecoglou is training these guys at real game intensity? What do you take away for you, that news that's broken over the course of the last week, that Spurs are having a review of their medical staff?
Yeah, I mean, listen, irony aside, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts for us to have a look at what our medical staff are doing and what we're doing in training. Again, for those of you who are listening on audio and you didn't, you weren't able to share in Patrick's book. I mean, you know, we had a good laugh about it and everything, but, you know, listen, the man has encyclopedic knowledge and you know, writes it all down. And Patrick had a list of names and, you know, people who were suspended, people who were injured, and specifically, Pat, you also had hamstring injuries, right, in your book there.
Yeah, I had hamstring. I just wanted to look at the difference between an unfortunate injury like a Vicario ankle injury,
Yes,
broken. You know, that's just an unfortunate one. But then you've got a lot of like muscle injuries where you're like, are these guys doing too much in training? Are they not managed properly? What's
yes.
going on? Davis is out with a hamstring injury.
I don't know if you noticed, Pat, in one of the comments,
Yeah.
I think the gentleman's name was Jamie. Apparently
Yeah.
at Celtic, they also had a number of
Yeah, you're
hamstring
seeing it, and it's just like
injuries.
maybe we're overdoing it in training. I mean, you know, these guys are
Or
made to
not
run,
preparing
made
for
to
that level of training, you know.
exactly. That's it.
I think we've
So
spoken about it actually, Rick, you know, perhaps just kind of in our, you know, kind of personal chats with each other, or, you know, perhaps before coming onto a show. But I mean, you know, am I going to sit here and wax lyrical about stretching and all that kind of thing? I guess I'm about to do it. So, you know, it's so important, right? You know, the stretching and making sure that everything is kind of warm and ready to go, especially for this level of athleticism, is absolutely vital. So whether, to Patrick's point, whether it's the medical team, whether it's the training that we're actually doing, or whether we're not preparing for the training and or the games, some of it is just bad luck. I mean, just quickly about Udogie, I think that's kind of a knock in the back. It's probably like a muscle thing from what I saw and kind of what I heard from the commentary over here. Obviously, it's going to be different in the States to what it is back home. So I think that's kind of like a bang and knock I think he'll be okay for Thursday. Who knows? But that aside, there's definitely something going on. I don't believe that we can be that unlucky. And so having a review of the medical staff is a really good idea. And also, let's just kind of look at what we're doing in training, how we are preparing for training, and then how we're preparing for games, because it shouldn't be happening with that level of startling regularity. And again, Pat's book, for you guys who didn't see it, I mean, it's a lot of wisdom on those pages. So it's worth having a look at, man.
If I may offer in another solution to this as well, along with looking at what we're doing in training and the medical team, perhaps if the club which charges the most in the world for its tickets, along with everything else with its events and the money that pours in, maybe we could look to deepen the squad as well, so that when we do lose players...
Think of that, Cracks. I mean, what have I not thought of that before?
Just a thought that, you know, if we are going to go balls in with Ange and his training methods and his methods mean that you do pick up, you know, this sort of amount of injuries of this nature, maybe then we just get ourselves a little bit more quality and depth in the squad, which obviously means spending some money to cover when we do have players out for maybe 2-3 games due to a tweaked hamstring, etc.
Absolutely right. And I think as well, I think that the current climate, like the temperature of the club, of the fan base, of the manager, of the coaching staff, and of the team, who've been extremely outspoken, actually very brave, very courageous, and also doing it cleverly. Like, you know, it wasn't too pointed. It was, I'm not going to say subtle, because it was really quite direct. The stage has been set perfectly for January to be a statement window from Levy and the board, because all of us are on this. You aren't good enough for us right now. You have been neglectful and you have been often shameful in your acquisition process. And we know what you've done in the past. As soon as things have started to get wobbly and people have turned on you, you fire the manager. I said on the last show, he couldn't possibly fire the manager now, because we all know what you're doing. You're trying to throw yet another manager under the bus. I also want to say about Ange, last transfer window, it was very obvious from all the leaks, all the very sort of public leaks, that Ange wanted to bring in 6 players in their prime. He wanted to bring in Tosin, Lloyd Kelly, Conor Gallagher, Neto, Eze, and Solanke. That's 6 players in their prime, aged, again, Patrick, I'm sure we'll have pages about this. I think they're about 24 to about 28 in there, Patrick. And he was given one of them, okay, out of those 6 players that, like Crack has just said, that are plug in and play Premier League ready players, ready to go. My goodness, there were a lot of P's in that sentence. And he was given one of them. So speaking about squad depth, January is going to be a time where Levy, I think, will be forced to act. Because we all know what's happening right now. And if you don't give Ange, I think he needs to bring in 2 or 3 players who add immediate strength. I'm not talking about that young man who's coming over from South Korea. He may be a sensational player. I'm not going to lie and say I watched him week in, week out, and I know him. I don't. We need plug and play Premier League players that are prepped and ready to go. And they have to come in January. Otherwise, Patrick's book, I mean, my goodness, they are going to read like the Dead Sea Scrolls. There we go.
It will end up by his ankles. It will. You mentioned that point there. Obviously, Min-hyuk Spurs are, we understand, preparing him to be...
Sorry, yes, that was his name. I couldn't remember, sorry.
Already kind of involved in action ahead of January. We do know, obviously, as Ali Gold from the show has stated, that there will be a bedding-in period for the player. Look, it'll be interesting what Spurs do in terms of managing that situation. But look, we have heard from Ange Postecoglou in terms of Destiny dogging where we are with Destiny on coming off. It appears at the moment that he was pulled off purely for precaution. But we have been here before when Spurs do play or do bring players off for precaution. It isn't always the case in terms of that just being precaution. And said straight after the game, we'll see how he is. He felt a bit tight in his quad. To be fair, he wanted to continue, but we can't take any risks at the moment. So we took him off with Sonny. I don't think it's anything significant at this stage, and it is more precautionary. But again, with Spurs, you hold your breath now and wait until the following 24, 48 hours, because we've been here so many times when it comes to players. So look, Spurs did make that change. It meant, of course, for Tottenham, Pedro Porro was sent on. At that point, Southampton fans were leaving in their droves. And at that point, really, Spurs should have been 5-0 up. Madison broke up on the pitch, played in Son, and his shot was pushed over the keeper. A couple of, obviously, efforts from there. Son pushing one onto the post, another at the goalkeeper. And I've got to say, this is one of the most bizarrest moments in the game for those that missed it. And I think doesn't get enough highlight for it. Lucas Bergvall is pushed into the goalpost by Matheus Fernandes. I mean, we review a lot in terms of VAR. I mean, should that not have gone to VAR for more of a serious incident? He's pushed him full on in the post.
I was so confused. I don't think it can be a penalty because the ball wasn't in play. Is that correct?
No.
But
that's correct. That is correct.
There's no way that shouldn't have been looked at properly. I mean, it was so dangerous. And like one of the commentators said, thankfully he didn't go head first into that. Otherwise, the guy would have been knocked out on a concussion protocol. He's out for 3 games or whatever it is. And then again, when we were at threadbare, we got a threadbare squad as it is. That's another player out. But yeah, I think when it got to like 2 or 3-0, you saw the Southampton players being really dirty and cheap and leaving one on, the Spurs players. And we saw the referee being quite lenient, to be fair, because I saw even Kulusevski get nibbled at quite a few times, and he looked at the ref like, what's going on? Why are you letting them get away with murder? And ironically, our players were getting booked. So you can't make it up. But I just... you got to protect players' welfare there, and that was crazy to see. Luckily, he was all right. He collided with the post. It looked like he had a bit of like damage to his chest, but he sucked it up and got on with it. But when I saw that, I feared the worst, especially right now. It's just our luck, isn't it? With all the injuries, another guy out for the count. But I mean, they talk about protecting the players and this and that, but that was mental, because there's no way he didn't mean anything other than to hurt him. No. Really, there's no other justification for it, is there?
Which is the crazy thing now with VAR in the game, that's not being looked at for more of a serious, foul play or pushing a player and endangering a player. I'm not sure where we're at if that's not being looked at. But look, I say we move on. Actually, a lovely moment obviously after that. Jed Spence again to kind of really bring into the fact of Jed's impact during that game. He ushered the ball out of play to applause from Spurs fans and then whipped his arm up, asking for more noise. That was at 4-0, and Spurs went into the break 5-0 up. James Maddison had in his second of the game for Spurs. It was their 5th. Crackers, to come to you. I mean, the irony of this goal is that Russell Martin walked down the touchline with a minute of the first half stoppage time, getting his team talk ready for the second half, missed the goal. And it was a lovely goal, to be fair. Like I say, all worked again by the nature of Heung-min Son involved in this one, where Spurs, they break forward in numbers, and Son sends Madison through with an outside of the boot pass. The Tottenham number 10 cuts inside and rifles it into the top corner. And for those that are watching the show live, if you can just about make out the ball, which is actually in the top right-hand corner. You might have to zoom in with your binoculars to see it, but it was an unbelievably placed finish from James Maddison, who now stands at 11 goals and assists for the season, 7 goals, 4 assists in 13 Premier League starts this season. I mean, Cracks, it's quite funny, isn't it? I think as a fan base, we feel Madison should be maybe contributing more to games as a whole. But stats-wise, Cracks, he's bang there at the moment, isn't he?
He is indeed. The Son pass into him was sensational. Absolutely sensational. He managed to somehow put just enough speed, a little bit of swerve, and a little bit of backspin on it. I mean, it's just, it defied physics almost. And it just fell beautifully. Madison's got his shot away whilst being slung into about row 4 of that stand behind. I mean, he's. I don't know if it was the same WWE Fernandes who's maybe trying to put him into like one of the posts or something. But he's got that shot away.
Hit him with a clothesline! Hit him with a clothesline!
I think it actually helped him to sort of slingshot that into the top. Do you think that, Cracks?
It kind of did, didn't it?
Because he was swinging his foot as he absolutely got ragdolled to the ground by his shirt. And it just slung that. I mean, I'm sure he was aiming for that anyway, but the power that he managed to generate because he got ragdolled quite so brutally.
It was exactly that, because he got pulled into a position he wouldn't have been able to naturally get his body into
100% right,
to get that shot off. So the assist could go down to the Southampton defender that actually done that. And he's managed to put the ball at an angle he would have never have got had he had just got his shot off naturally. So thank you very much for that. I know a couple of people have said the keeper may have been able to do better, but I don't think the keeper's quite expecting that power and that angle.
It was already past him by the time the keeper's reacted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your boy's a keeper, right? You know about that. It's
correct.
Gone.
Yeah. It was a bizarre shot because of the bizarre angle he actually got pulled into. It was just, but hey ho, when it's one of those days, it's one of those days, isn't it? And that went for us. But Joe Cole on TNT Sports made a good point this evening, and he said that it always seems to be that when Madison plays well, like he did today, Spurs play well. And when he's having one of these games where he's not as effective, ditto Spurs. He is almost the barometer for us on the pitch. So he was on fire today. He was literally unplayable, and he had us ticking and purring today. Fantastic from him.
Just to come back on that point, Craig, would that be your argument that with James, we need to see him play well on the days maybe Spurs aren't really at the races and be that player that is standing out? Dare I say, like a Kulusevski. I think that's the one that you can say about Decky. There's not been too many occasions, I think, this season when Spurs have had really, really bad days, that he's had bad days. He's quite often showed up during the course of most of those games, to be honest with you. Is that what you need to see from James Maddison as well as a player?
Yeah, he is. He's kind of where his position, where he sits, and what he does. He is a bit of the metronome for the whole team, isn't he? So, if he's ticking and he's able to be playing balls into people and just being effective, and do you know what? Just being a pest as well. He is really. If you went to school with James Maddison, you really wouldn't want to be in front of him, would you? Because he's the kid that would be getting the little bits of paper and spitting it through a big pen, or flicking your ear, or he's that kid, isn't he, at school?
Cheeky chappy.
He is. So when he's being that, and he's just being like, putting in great passes and being effective for himself, and also just being a damn pest to the opposition, then Spurs normally are generally firing, aren't they? So he's got to have more consistency and show what he's done today in other games.
Armin, spot on. And can I just kind of pat very quickly on Madison? Because Pat, you've made the point, and now again off there as well, that I think your frustration has been that James as a player, maybe arguing maybe not many of his greatest moments during his Spurs career, is that we have this situation with Ange where he'll bring him off with, half an hour, maybe even arguably at half time, or 10, 15 minutes to go when Spurs are either chasing a goal or they're chasing a winner to go on and win the game. I mean, is that because you feel Ange hasn't got the full trust in James yet? Or is it because, again, as we've touched upon, James does play quite hot and cold as a player? Where are you on that metric for you, Patty, on that?
At first, I thought he was possibly protecting him because he was injured and he took a while to get into his form, and we didn't want to see him get re-injured. But I think Madison's more than fit enough now, and I don't really get it, to be honest, because Madison is definitely one of those players where, even if things aren't going well and Spurs aren't really ticking, he's just got that bundle or that ounce of quality where he can, pull something out of his locker against the run of play, against the grain. We saw it against, last year against Arsenal when we were away at the Emirates, when he scored the 2 goals when Sonny set him up. They were just crazy finishes. Away at the Etihad this season, the guy can, he's got it all in his locker when he's in form. And, sometimes, I do agree with that. We need to see it more when he's not really playing well, like a Kulusevski, for example. But I think they said, or I heard it somewhere, I think the game away against Rangers, or maybe it was the last Premier League game, that was his first full 90 minutes this season. And that's crazy for a player of Madison's ilk and quality. So I don't know what's really going on with Ange, or why he doesn't trust him to play more, more. Today I don't mind it. We're cruising, we're up, we've got 2 big games, but you do need to see Madison playing more, especially in a game where we're chasing a goal to either win the game or get back in the game. To take off someone of Madison's quality, for me, is mental. I think he's sensational, and he can do more, and he should be doing more. But also at the same time, if you keep dragging him off, how is he meant to do that?
Yeah, fair points. I mean, like I said, I think what we need to, and James, to be honest with you, is that level against with Spurs, consistency. I think that's what we're already striving for, is trying to find that consistency, not in terms of just the team, but in terms of individuals. I think with all due respect, if we could see that same level that Kulu has been showing for Tottenham across a lot of these players, then this Tottenham side will look very different in terms of the points amassed. You can't argue with the goals they've scored. You also can't argue with the amount of goals they've conceded. It hasn't been that terrible this season in terms of those 2 stats alone, but it's just about trying to find that consistency. So Spurs went in at the break. It sounds crazy. I won't say it's a lot of last for Spurs, can I just say 5-0. And you know what? You have to go back to Southampton having 2 thumpings in their Premier League record books, where they were losing, conversely, 9-0 in 2 games, which is a record that was being held for them, which they were hoping wasn't going to be added to a 3rd time. James Maddison actually scored 1 in the 9-0 victory Leicester had against them. He got 2-0 going into half-time. And this is the first time ever in Premier League history Spurs scored 5 goals in the first half of a game. Absolutely horrendous from Saints. Brennan Johnson did replace Son at half-time. Purely this one saved ahead of the game against Manchester United in the Carabao Cup. Also, a lovely debut was in store for Alfie Dorrington. He came on to make his senior debut. He replaced Jed Spence and went off to a rousing reception, while Timo Werner came on for James Maddison. And can I just say on Jed Spence, really important we make this point for Jed, that 881 days after Jed joined Spurs from Nottingham Forest, he had just completed his first full start for Tottenham. Yes, it had taken Jed Spence that long to make his first full start in the Premier League for Tottenham. An indication maybe that we could be seeing Spence again on Thursday night, with obviously the news of Destiny Doggy still up in the air. Look, Southampton did find a way in the back of the net, but it was ruled out for offside. Spurs did eventually bring Solanke off as well. In his place came Will Lancashire, who came on for another start in terms of the Premier League. Bit of an awkward moment for Saints fans, who chanted for Russell Martin to give them a wave. And then when he did, they booed him. I mean, maybe it makes sense when I did sack him after full time. I'll never understand that. Russell give us a wave. He gives a wave and they boo him. What was the point of that? I mean, what was the point of that? You know, I make that point that we all have kind of, in the fan base sometimes, kind of fans, you think, that is really illogical. Cracks, can you understand that? You ask for the manager to give you a wave, he gives you a wave, then you boo him. Have you ever heard such craziness in your life?
British humour at its absolute finest. If you tried to explain that here in the Canary Islands, or TJ tried to explain that in America to the Canarians and Americans, they'd be like, what? But I think you have to be British to understand that that's just such a British thing, isn't it? It's terrible,
we'll
but
call
it's
that
fantastic.
A healthy dose of British cynicism. That's what we'll call
exactly
that.
that.
It just doesn't exist in warmer climes, does it, Cracks?
No, it really doesn't. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. It's a bit like when a ball gets sort of miskicked and all the crowd go, "Way!" The Spanish sort of look at each other and it's like, why are you cheering such a terrible thing? Like, you know, it's British. Someone drops their plate in a Spanish restaurant and everybody's like, oh, blimey, like, you know. You go to like one of the British restaurants out here, someone drops the plate, way! It's just the way it is, isn't it?
Oh God.
God bless the British.
We'd never change. We'd never change it.
Never change it. Look, funny stuff there. It was an Hawks moment. I think, for those that were involved in that. I mean, Russell Martin didn't get it, obviously, hence why he lost his job straight after the game. It should have been 6-0 as Werner found Johnson, but he fired over. And look, it might have been offside at the second look. And quite ironically, again, going back, I'm so sorry, Russell Martin's getting a battering on this show. And this isn't a Southampton podcast, can I just say, but it's just the fact of the way this show is going towards there. Southampton fans then turn towards their own manager and start saying to him, you're getting sacked in the morning. It didn't even get to the morning. It got to the evening and they sacked him. And look, to kind of conclude that game as a whole, there was Jed Spence limping away after going over to the Spurs fans. Hopefully it's a bit of tiredness and cramp after his prolonged spell of football in a while. But we come back to that point we said at the very, very start of this show. Look, it's a big result for Spurs ahead of a big, big week. Before I bring in Ange Postecoglou's closing comments after that game to the press, we'll come to Patty on this. Pat, we know it's a big week. I presume you are going to be there, I think, with both of these upcoming home games now for Tottenham. Massive, massive home games. Liverpool, obviously, the weekend. But before that, we've got Manchester United. Huge, huge tie in the Carabao Cup. Pat, am I overstating it by saying, or over-sensationalising it by saying it's the biggest week of Spurs' season? Pat, am I over-exerting that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, where we are right now, it's a huge week. I mean, you know, as they said in the commentary, we're still in all 4 competitions, and that's correct. And I still want that to be the case going into the weekend. And, you know, after the weekend, I think we're on like 23 points right now. I think the top 4 or the team placed 4th is on about 27 points. So there's a 4-point gap. If we can close that there, yeah, there you go. So we're on 23 points. Oh, 28. Okay. So yeah. So 5-point gap. So, you know, we need to, Liverpool obviously chasing the league and they've got a game in hand. We need to try and beat them. We beat them last year, didn't we? But it was very contentious because of the, you know, the phantom goal that was, you know, offside that was given or wasn't given against Luis Diaz. But we won, and we need to do that again. We need to win again on the weekend. But obviously, it's step by step, game by game. That old cliche, one game at a time. And of course, the first pressing issue is Manchester United. You know, I don't know if you call it a new manager bounce under Amorim. They're getting a few results. They still don't look great, but at the end of the day,
I didn't see any of that today, Pat. Did you?
Yeah, I know. But
Bad
they fluked
game,
to win,
bro.
didn't they? They fluked to
Bad,
win,
man.
though.
They look bad.
They looked awful, but Ahmed, a bit of quality, a bit of brilliance, and
Yeah, I like him,
somehow,
yeah.
you know, he won the penalty, and then that touch for the second goal over the keeper, and then to slot it in. I still don't know how Guardiola didn't clear that, by the way, but
He's got
you know,
shades of Nani for me. You know, like when
he's
Nani
got
was
that
such a
magic
great
and
player
that
for them.
ability.
Yeah.
So you
And
know,
also just that kind of stretchy, you know, he's got this kind of stretchy, bandy legs. Like he had no right to reach that ball ahead of Edison. And
no
yet
way.
he got it, you know. It's a good player. Talked about him actually on the last ep that I think him and Fernandes are their only players. So, you know, somebody needs to do a job on Fernandes in the center of the pitch, and then we need to be, you know, up to it in our left back and right back just to make sure that Ahmad is kept quiet.
United are a weird team because they're not very good, but they do have players on their day that can hurt anyone. If Rashford turns up on his day, he can do a job. Højlund on his day can score goals. You know, obviously Fernandes is a bit of a scumbag of a player, but he's always good for a penalty. I know I can't stand him either. He's got a rat face. You just want to you just want to beat him up. But
and also his celebration after he scored that penalty,
I was like, really? Like you've done F all game. It was a horrible game. It was a horrible watch. If that's what you're tuning in for Sunday 4:30 to showcase the Premier League in all its glory, it was a stink fest. But they won the game. You know, if we concentrate on what we do, but also respect them, I think we should beat them, you know. But obviously, you know, you've got to go into the game and apply it on the pitch. And Liverpool is going to be a huge game. They're definitely the best team in the Premier League right now. Salah is just insane. You know, I mean, Arne Slot is a fantastic manager. They've got good players all over the pitch. And it will be a real good test for us to see where we are and what's going on. So, yeah, huge week, Ricky. Definitely the biggest week we've had so far. And we'll probably say that going into, if we're successful this week, next week, there'll be more of those type of statements. But as it stands right now, I totally agree with you.
You know what makes me feel particularly good and kind of confident as well at the moment, harking right back to the top of the show, where Crackers was talking about, you know, our kind of second string players having a run of games. I think Dragozin was really, really impressive today, and he just seems to be kind of getting better and better and better. Another one of those players that's just been given a run of games, you know, not by choice, but because of an injury crisis. And he really seems to be kind of stepping up, not just in his performance, but in his demeanor and his sense of assuredness in and out of possession. He's kind of looking like a bit of a leader to me back there, which I think is really important. Speaking of leaders, again, Fraser Forster, man. I mean, he's going to have a shout at the end of the season for being player of the season, isn't he, Rick?
And he's only played. Obviously Vicario started the campaign, but you're right. I mean, Fraser, to be fair to
He's
him,
been
so pleased with him he got a clean
absolutely
sheet.
immense,
So pleased he got a
immense,
clean
and
sheet,
not
right?
just in his size. You know, he was so calming today, and just again great with his feet, great with his hands. He's moving people around. He's commanding his box. He's doing so well. And third shout out today for our back line was again young Archie Gray, who is just he's such an honest Tommy, isn't he? He's just that guy. You just go, listen, Archie, we're going to put you here today. He just goes, yes, boss, and gets on with it. And also, let's remember, I think it was like in the 89th minute or the 90th minute or something, they have a tap in at the back post, and he manages, he's only a slight lad, you know, he's 18, he manages to get goal side just before the ball crosses the net and manages to kick it over the bar. Do you know how hard that is to do without kicking it into your own net, or just let the guy bundle you into the ball and you know it ends up over the line? What an exceptionally gifted young man he is. And talk about ego and attitude at 18 years old. This boy mentally, my goodness, he could win mastermind. He's an absolute juggernaut mentally. And so big up Forster, big up Draggers in, and Archie Gray, man. Excellent back there today.
TJ, you're a star, my man. You're a star. Cracked, come over to you. Look, we mentioned a point of how big the week is. I'm blessed to have you for both of those games coming up. Huge game in the Carabao Cup against Manchester United. Then we've got Liverpool to come. And, you know, again, I think we make that point there. You know what? Again, it has been an up and down campaign so far as I'm getting away from it. But as, again, King Huddle says here, all in all, we're 4 points off fifth amidst what we know it's been a bit of an injury crisis. But the key thing is, Cracks, still got a lot to play for in what is a massive week for the football club. Cracks, fair to say that point?
Oh, it is. It is absolutely huge. It's and we are 4 points off because although Forest are 5 points ahead of us, our goal difference counts for a point there, really. So you look at that and you're one win and one draw away from turning stuff around if those above you slip up. So it is very finite, but it is a huge week. We need to just play the cup game and not worry too much about the Liverpool game, and then whatever comes out from that, then play the Liverpool game, because this club really does need a bit of a pep and a bit of a boost in that respect. So we do really need to go all out to see if we can't progress in the cup. You know, and like TJ said, some of the players that have come in where we had doubts and concerns have done quite well. Dragosin's got a run of games and looks assured, so you have a confidence with him for Thursday night. And the same with Forster, who's just come in and been fantastic. The 6'7" wall of Hexham. He's great. He gave me a really funny moment this week. I absolutely adored him for it. Tottenham Hotspur, in their pursuit to get social media content out, put a little Instagram video out of him walking down a corridor with a cup of tea. And I mean, he's 36 years old, white male from the north of England, and he's drinking a cup of tea. I mean, you know, this isn't unusual. But bless the millennial that works at Tottenham on their social media content. She says to him, "What you got there?" And he goes, "Cup of tea." Milk and sugar, and he just sort of looks at her and goes, "Just milk." And then she says, "Wow." And it's like, wow. And his face says it all. It's as if to say, like, I've got no time for all this social media crap. And what's so wow about a 36-year-old northern white male drinking tea? I mean, you know, this is just, but it was just fantastic. It was like, I've really got no time whatsoever for your social media nonsense. I'm Fraser Forster. I've got a goal to keep. Thank you very much. And a cup of tea to drink. Brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, man. Listen, Fraser Forster. Listen, love that. Fantastic. Back amongst the sticks. We're going to close with Ange Postecoglou's comments on the back of that victory against Saints and where we are going into, that's a huge week for the club. And said actually on the game itself, look, really proud of the players. We obviously had a tough away fixture in Europe on the Thursday. We had 10 first-team players unavailable for a number of reasons in terms of the squad of 25. We asked them, all of them, to go in again and dig deep into their wells of energy. A couple we put out there hadn't played in ages, hadn't started. The fact that boys could play with that energy and that quality was really outstanding. I'm really pleased they got the reward for it because they deserve it. He was very much singling out the likes of Lucas Bergveld, Jed Spence with their displays. He would look, they were great. Lucas is growing all the time, but he's 18. Archie is 18. How many of these Premier clubs are going to line up for 2 18-year-olds in their lineups? Jed had to bide his time, and fair play to Jed. It's one of those areas of the pitch that we've had covered this year with Archie playing their right back, so he's had to be patient. But look, a testament to Jed and the coaches who have worked so hard with him in training that he has really came in and put in a great reward for his patience and perseverance by putting in that display. He was asked about wanting players to step up from a senior perspective and how pleased he was with James Maddison and Heung-min Son, bearing in mind they're the 2 vice captains. He said they were brilliant. I just think I sensed they needed to be in this one. We're just so spread thin that we're asking young players and players who haven't played much to be playing out there and really putting in an effort so we can show our identity, play the football we want to play. I thought they were both the catalyst for that, with both the football and also the mindset going into it. We had to start strong. We knew we'd probably run out of gas at the end, considering the amount of games that we've had and a lot that we had there coming off the back of Thursday in Europe. I think the players sensed that, and credit to them, they started the game in that way. And was asked that it was a nice moment between him and the fans and how it felt after the following moments after the Bournemouth game, and said, look, I'm trying to separate me and my feelings from what we're trying to do here. Like I said after the Bournemouth game, the ones that travel are obviously very hardcore. They support this club. They were disappointed with that. They made the trip again for this one, and they would have enjoyed particularly that first 45 minutes. I didn't get to see any goals close up in the second half, unfortunately. Look, I said on Friday, nothing changes for me. I still have the same resolve, determination to make sure we become the football club and the football team we want to be. This game was about the players, and I thought their efforts were unbelievable. So big words there from Ange Postecoglou ahead of a big week for the football club. I want to say a massive thank you to this wonderful panel that have steered and guided you through that win against Southampton. Chatty Patty Pat, I know again, a lot of games at home at the moment, so we've not seen you as much as we want to see you, but Pat, you're back on us very soon. Pat, a big week for the football club again. We'll reiterate that point. We need to keep this run going now, don't we? We need to keep this run going.
A huge week. Hope to see as many of you down at the stadium as possible. Thursday, let's get behind the team and let's make sure we go through. And then Sunday, I'll be at the protest, and it'll be great to see as many of you guys there as possible. Let's make it a decent protest. It may not be the first or the last one, but yeah, let's get behind the team and obviously voice our concerns about Levy and where the club's at the moment compared to where we believe it should be for the amount of investment us as fans have put into it, and where we want to see the club go in a positive manner. But yeah, long may the wins continue. I think that's our second win in the last 10 games in the Premier League. Yep. So hopefully we've gone through the blip, and hopefully we can start pushing and looking upwards now.
Patty, thank you so much. They've loved having you back on. I've got to say, Pat, lots of love for you. And like I say, Pat, just to again echo those words as Pat has said there, look, for those that want to attend that protest will be on Saturday. I know, again, it's a ramping up of numbers. So, like I say, if you feel disillusioned... Sunday. Thank you. I'll go on Saturday. Go there on Sunday, Pat. Thank you. It's been a long week. Forgive me. It's Tottenham here non-stop. It is Sunday, just to be very clear. And that protest will be opposite the club shops, from, I believe, 3 p.m, Pat, right? From 3 p.m.
Yeah, that's right. From 3 p.m, opposite the Spurs ground. You can get at, let me just make sure I get this right, at Change for Spurs.
Change for Tottenham.
Change for Spurs, Change for Tottenham. And Jay Co is also running it as well. You can get him on Twitter, and you'll probably see it everywhere as well. But let's all go there. Talk is cheap. A lot of people talk the talk. Let's start walking the walk now. If that's what you believe, and if you're not there, fine. It's up to you and how you feel. But if you are, feeling like you want to voice your concerns and be there, then be there. Simple as that, really.
I think lovely words there, Pat, because again, the protest isn't for everybody. Some might not want to protest. Look, again, it's open to offer. If you want to go and protest, please go down there and show your dismay at where we are as a football club right now. And for those that don't feel comfortable, don't have to do it. Like I say, it's optional. No one should be forcing anybody for something they don't want to do. But again, it's really important that we highlight that on this show, given that, with all due respect, that we're, I want to say, the leading Tottenham podcast out there. It would be wrong if we don't obviously highlight this to you, what is happening. Pat, thank you so much. Cracks, thank you so much. Cracks, you're back with us on Thursday. ahead of what we said is a
am.
massive week for the football club. Massive week. Big week.
Yes, very, very much so. May I also point out that just after the protest at 3 p.m. on Sunday, last word on Spurs has got a big fight with the fighting cock after I've called them out this evening. It's me, you, Ricky, Pat versus Flav and the boys. It's an all-in Royal Rumble. First one to get pushed into the goalpost wins, okay?
Oh, God. Flav, I'll see you another side, my man. Listen, boys at Fighting Cock, what can we say? Thank you so much. Cracks, thank you, mate. Lots of love to you. And TJ, like, this is, this is really been a big shift. Like I say, a big shift. Cracks and Pat is Pat is there. Cracks and TJ are back with us on Thursday. Big game for the club. TJ, like you've said all along, these shows always end in happiness, always end in us smiling.
Yes.
And like I say, the case is, like I say, we know as a show, we're always happy when Spurs win. Of course we are. We're Spurs fans. We take no pleasure in the run of results we've been going on. We want to be sitting here recording when Spurs are winning, and that's always the great feeling. Whenever we get together, we want to see this club winning, and that's what brings us all together and makes us feel so good about each other.
It does, but even when we're not performing well, I think one of the great things about this program that you have crafted so beautifully, Rick, is that you've created a real community here where people can come together in times of sorrow and times of victory and share our opinions with each other and share our emotions with each other and our feelings and our hopes for the future, and lament the past. And yet always end the program with smiles on our faces, and I really sincerely hope that the viewers and listeners feel the same, that of course when we win it's easy to walk down the high street head to toe Tottenham gear and grinning from ear to ear, but even when we don't, just providing a little solace and a little support and a little love and a little cuddle over the airwaves, it's such a valuable such a valuable thing to be able to offer to people. So I'm delighted to be a part of it. I really enjoyed being on the show today. Cracks, lovely to see you, mate. Always a pleasure. Pat, haven't seen you for ages, bro. Love listening to you, mate. Love being on the show with you. And to you forever, Rick. Love you, brother. So thank you so much to all the viewers and listeners. And I shall see you on Thursday. Have a lovely Sunday evening. I'm going to enjoy my Sunday afternoon into evening. And I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Bless you. Patty, thank you so much. Cracks, thank you so much. TJ, thank you so much. What a show. What a panel. We had a 5-0 Spurs win to go with it. Look, go crazy, go away, go and enjoy. Look, we've not had too many wins like this. I know, again, many will look at Southampton, it's bottom of the table. Look, you can only enjoy the wins that you get, right? And that's what we've got to deal with. So listen, a massive thank you to, again, an incredible watching audience here. Over 6,000 of you have watched this show live. Again, can't thank you enough for all your support for Last Word on Spurs. All I will say is buckle up. December is where it starts getting really, really busy. We're down to business. Thank you so much for your support. From us all here, please keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.